Somebody broke in. So a project we're going to work on today is installing these 3 solar panels as a separate electrical system to run a radio station, which is going to sit right here. This is our radio desk, or it will be our radio desk. If you look outside, see there's a tower that's going to have, it already does have some antennas on it. Out there in the yard you might see another antenna, so we're going to have a lot of radio action here. Up through the floor in the corner we've got coax cable coming in, and you see there's a coil of copper wire for the grounding of the radio. We have a little homemade terminal block here that we're going to put somewhere on this wall so that we can connect the radio to that. Now, when you buy things like this in the store, it's starting to get really expensive, like sometimes 50, 60 bucks for a bus. But if you just have a piece of plastic and some hardware, you just need a good insulator here, and you can make your own for next to nothing. So currently, this place is kind of a mess, but we have a little spot in the wall where we've got cables coming in for our main power system. And that's coming to our 2500 watt inverter. We've got a little bus here to power our DC lights. So we're going to bring in the cables through that same pipe. There should be enough room to bring a couple of 8-gauge cables in. And they're going to run along the wall to our little terminal block that we're going to put by the radio desk. And I apologize for the mess, but that's just the way life is when you're building. So this is the south-facing side of our entryway. We already have 10 solar panels. Each one is 100 watts, so that's 1,000 watts or a kilowatt. That is powering our main house batteries. So on this side, we're going to put one on the top and then one below it, kind of like the way those two are. And then on the east side of the house, we'll add our third. We'll put that, like right there. So what'll happen is this is facing east. It'll catch some morning sun and start powering the batteries. And as the sun comes around, all these south-facing panels will catch the sun and charge the batteries. A lot of people like to put their solar panels on kind of like angled mounts, etc., etc. Some people like to have ones that track with the sun, or that the angle of the mount changes depending on the angle of the sun. We do it this way because we're lazy. And basically we don't ever have to mess with anything, and it's not the most efficient, but it's nice and easy because in the summertime, there's so much sun, it doesn't matter. You don't need to have the perfect angle. You're going to be having power all the time. And in winter, you're going to have very low angle sun that this is perfect for, and you never have to clean them off. They don't collect snow when you do it this way. So, like I said, it's not the most efficient, but it's easy, and once you put them up, you can stop worrying about them. You don't have to worry about the motor on your mount wearing out. You don't have to worry about taking snow off of them. You don't have to really worry about anything. So this is the way that we do it. So this one's going to go upside down. I'm bringing the cables down so that they can easily connect with the one that goes underneath. So let me get some screws out. They're all going in series, so it's basically going to function as a single 300 watt solar panel. They're all kind of connected together. I put ends on some solar cable just yesterday, so it's ready to go. I cut it the right length to get us to the charge controller, but I can't connect these yet because you're not supposed to connect them to the charge controller when they're under load. I've done it under load before and it was fine, but I guess better safe than sorry. So this is our little battery shed here. It's connected to the house on the deck. These are the main house batteries. That's just 4 golf cart batteries. Those are 6 volts. So the solar is coming into this 70 amp charge controller, into the batteries. Power is going from the batteries through the wall into the inverter. Now, this charge controller is for the panels that I just put up. And that's going to bring power into these batteries, 2 6 volts. I'm going to connect them together with that little cable to become one 12 volt. And then we're going to put it through the wall. So right now what I'm doing is I'm connecting the positive of one battery to the negative of the other. And that's turning a 6 volt into a 12 volt. So now instead of 2 individual 6 volts, we have, think of it as one 12 volt, and over here is the negative terminal for the 12 volt, and here is the positive terminal for the 12 volt. So those are going to connect up here to the charge controller. So right now I'm feeding cable through the wall that's going to connect to the batteries. That way when I connect these to the charge controller, I can connect them to this at the same time so I don't have to undo the bolts on the batteries. So then after that, all I have to do is run wire from the charge controller out to the panels. So this is going to take me a minute because it's kind of a snug fit. And so we got those cables fed through the wall just about all the way. I'm going to go ahead and put this one in the charge controller. Alright, make sure that's snug. Because I'm going to connect this now with this one together onto the positive terminal here. Let's see. Just, again, the cold temperatures make the wires not want to be flexible. So let's get that down, get that snug. You always want to make sure that your terminals are super snug. If they are not, it can start a fire. Alright, so now I'm going to do the same thing with the negative. I'm going to get the I'm going to go ahead and flex that ahead of time because I know I'm going to need some flexibility there. Get that in here on the charge controller. Make sure that's nice and snug. Connect that together with this guy, who also needs some flexibility. Alright, there we go. You always want to make sure that as you're tightening things that you never connect positive to negative with your wrench or with any kind of conductor, as that will short your circuit and create sparks and all kinds of fun times. Alright, so that's nice and snug. Push that through the wall a tiny bit more. So now we've got charge controller to batteries, batteries inside to where they're going to connect to the terminal block. Now we have to get from charge controller out to the solar panels. Now I look here on the charge controller, I have a green light on battery, which tells me that we have a good battery load here. So I think I have almost 40 feet of solar cable. I put the ends on them yesterday so that I can plug them in. And then I stripped off these ends so that they can go into the charge controller. So I'm going to go under the deck now and feed them up to get into the battery area. I'm going to bring these behind everything. Alright. Alright, all connections are snug. I'm going to have to connect those to the wall later on, but all that remains is to connect those to the solar panels. But before I do that, I have to go under the house and make sure that the cables are up and out of the way of everything. So I'm just getting these in place, ready to plug in. So there'll be plenty of distance. I gotta still kind of tack it up underneath the floor joists a bit more, but I wanted to make sure I got it here first so that I didn't find out that I needed more slack when it was too late. So I'm drilling holes in the terminal block so that we can mount it on the wall. So that's what we've been waiting for. The sun is down. There should not be any load on these. So get a little slack here. I'm going to connect positive first. I always remind myself, stay positive. Like whenever you're switching out your car battery, you're supposed to connect the positive first and disconnect it last. It stays on as long as possible. So I just remind myself, stay positive. So, panels are connected now. Let's go check out the charge controller and see if it's working. So here we go. We have on the left our little PV light, PV meaning photovoltaic, and it's green, and the battery light is green. So all that's left to do is to that wire that we put inside, we got to solder terminals on the ends of that and connect it to the terminal block, and then we can test it. But we're going to have to wait for tomorrow. Somebody broke in. Somebody broke in and finished the job for us, and I think I know who it was. It was Glenn. This is our neighbor Glenn, and he helps us out with electronic things, especially radio-related things. And so he's setting up a radio right now to test out, actually. So we're going to connect that to the terminal block down there. Sorry, I need my drill for the light, because it's middle of November and things are dark. But we'll get it going. Megan is connecting the ground wire to the back of this radio before we test it out. We still have to connect it to that terminal block. We should be on the air in just a matter of minutes. So the terminal block is down there, and up here we have a little quick connect and release going into the radio.
On CW. It's on CW, upper sideband.
Glenn, I'm getting my radio license.
It was a little past one. See?
Okay.
Take your headphones off for a radio check. How happy?
Good.
Okay, well we're just over here checking the radio out. I'm surprised you had your headphones off. I'm glad you answered.
The headphones jack is broken on this computer.
Haha, okay, that's funny. Have fun, KL5AF.
I will.
So are you there, Tom?
Yeah, Roger. Kind of light copy here, but I got you most of the time there.
Okay, very good. Okay, we're just over here with Glenn checking our antennas out and what have you.
Okay, did you want to try the repeater? Over?
Even though this might not be the most top of the line or efficient solar power system, we think about we've got 1,300 watt solar panels here. They're about $100 a piece, so that's like, $1,300. Various cables, mounting hardware. We've got 2 charge controllers. One of them we've had for 10 years. It's still working great. I don't remember how much we paid for that, but between 2 charge controllers and an inverter, that's probably another like $1,500. Batteries probably less than $1,000. So we're between $3,000 and $4,000 invested in our entire power system, and it's done. We bought some little LED light bars that people use for RVs. We're using those for house lights. They're super cheap, super efficient, plenty bright. And then the last piece of the puzzle is our DC powered fridge, and that'll probably be a separate video. But to consider that's half a year's electric bill for some people. But it also requires being frugal with how you use energy, using DC whenever possible so you don't have to always have your inverter running, some things like that. But we'll get more into that in some other videos.